Some patients I'll have like 30 things listed, and the doctor has to go through and decide if he thinks it was related to the medicine or related to another condition. So there's a lot that shows up on that sheet, too.
You can have increased pressure in your eyes.
I didn't have that problem.
You can have fungus, toenail fungus show up, or you can have increased going to the bathroom.
Yeah, so once again, like every single medicine, there's tons of side effects. I can just tell you on my personal experience with our patients that were in the study, we didn't have any major side effects. So that fungus of the nail was listed because a physician saw it happen to a study patient and said, oh, this must be related. So that's how it gets listed on that sheet of every single side effect. So, and they had in that study, there was about 10,000 patients across the whole U.S. So that's a lot of people. There's going to be, I mean, in every single medicine, there's going to be side effects, and that's the purpose of us doing the studies. So on my just personal experience with our individual patients, there was nothing that really stood out to me out of the normal. So, and a lot of these patients, the good thing is why we do the studies is to see if it works with all these other medications. When we did that study with the Brio, they wanted us to do it in heart patients, which is great because I believe it was Avandia in 2008. Patients were having heart attacks and having heart issues because when they did a diabetes study, nobody ever took a chance to say, let's see how this works in patients with heart problems. They picked a healthy group of patients with diabetes and said, oh, this is great. This is a great medicine. Let's get it on the market. So the FDA went back and changed that real quick. They said every single medicine that's going to be now approved, we're going to have you go back and do studies, and we're going to show it's safe in heart patients. So that's what's happening a lot now. A lot of our studies are simply going back and just reconfirming that a heart patient can take these medicines, which is great. It should have been done initially. I mean, to pick a healthy patient with one condition just doesn't make sense. It's not our patient population at all. But, yes, ma'am?
The medicine that you were talking about, decrease inflammation, decrease mucus, exactly what does it do?
So with that component of medicine, it doesn't ever take away, it's pretty much COPD and asthma. When you have those conditions, you have them. So it's simply finding a medicine that can help you breathe better and make you feel better. And they said with the Brio, it's simply, there wasn't any great facts of when we did the study on our 30 patients, I didn't see any huge increase in lung function, except for on 2 patients that had underlying asthma as well, which asthma patients get better on inhalers. COPD patients normally stay stable. Like when I give a COPD patient albuterol, an asthma patient would get 15% better or more. Most of my COPD patients that have true COPD and not albuterol, they just kind of stay the same, maybe get 3 to 5% better. So simply the patients felt better on it. There wasn't any huge lung increase.
So there was no, so it doesn't work on inflammation, doesn't work on.
I'm sure it helps to a component of it, but the patients just basically felt better and they didn't have as much shortness of breath. It wasn't a huge, wow, we can tell that their lung function has increased by this amazing amount. It wasn't even like that. I know, you would hope that it would, take away everything, but they've yet to find. We are doing a study now on an injection, and they're deciding that if we can attack the eosinophils, which is the allergies in the body, then we can help with COPD patients. So that's now their new thing is let's look at patients with Advair, Symbicort, Dilera, any of those that are still having attacks every year, and let's attack the eosinophils. And let's see if by attacking that, because that's what they do in asthma patients, if they attack that, they're hoping that maybe it can help with the mucus and with other things. So that's our newest study right now. Because right now all the doctors have only focused on the neutrophils in patients with COPD. So now they're going to try to do the eosinophils, because I think they said by 2030, COPD is going to be the 4th leading cause of death. And the fact that we're spending so much money into people still having asthma attacks, they have to find something else that helps with it. So, did you have a question?
COPD and asthma, they different.
They are different. Some people have an underlining with, it's called a bronchospasm is what the physicians like to call it, but I call it asthma. some people can have COPD and also get better with albuterol, but have kind of both components to it. But they have to pick one as a primary diagnosis. So we usually do a breathing test. We do a breathing test without any medicine on you, and then we give you 2 to 4 puffs of albuterol, wait 15 to 30 minutes, and if you get better by more than 14%, then the doctor looks at it and tries to decide, you know, if it's true asthma or if it's true COPD with underlying cause of asthma. So a lot of patients will start out with asthma as children and then smoke for several years, and then once they reach that 10-pack year, then they're like, oh, you actually have COPD along with it. So those are the only cases that I've seen it in both. But so let's see. So 6 to 10 years of testing's done before it even reaches human trials. Now, obviously, that's different for new devices and medicines that are already approved. So this is a brand new medicine. 1 out of every 1,000 compounds will make it to human testing. And then new drugs and therapies then must go through the 4 phases of research. So phase 1 is simply for safety. Most of the time this is done in patients with the condition that are really healthy population or healthy patients who don't even have this condition. And then phase 2 is for efficacy. So when phase 2s take place, it's usually less than 100 patients. They don't need a lot of patients because they want to see how it works in that small amount of patients. Phase 3 is to confirm the safety and the efficacy, and that's when you're kind of reaching your several hundreds. And then phase 4 is several thousands. And that's simply, we know the medicine's working, so now we're going to do a broader, expanded patients. Benefits to participate: access and support from the entire study team throughout the process, access to investigational medicines. Patients become active in their medical care and treatment, which is what you were discussing. I mean, we kind of hound our patients, not in a bad way, but to make sure they understand their medical care and, you know, their treatment and also their condition too. So we create, the physicians take out more time. I'm not a physician, but I just do the best I can. But the physicians actually take out more time and will spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour with a patient to truly make sure all their questions are answered too. And you have access to the physician whenever you need them as well. So knowledge and good feeling that their participation is also going to help other patients and also help with the treatments, and it's no cost to you. Of course, you'd like to know there's risk. There can't always be benefits without any risk. That would be a wonderful world that we lived in if that wasn't the case. Potential side effects could take place, which is what you were going over. So in every consent form, and they're about, I feel like they're getting longer now, but before you start any study, we have about a 30 to 40 page consent, and it goes over what's going to take place at every single visit, the reason for doing the study, and then also possible side effects. I have some patients that come in for asthma studies, and they'll read the consent, and then they look at me and say, I don't want to take this albuterol, and they've been taking it now for 10 years. But it's simply they don't go home with every new prescription and read every side effect. So if we read every side effect, we probably wouldn't take any medicine. At least I wouldn't if I read them all. But treatment might not work, or you might not get any better than what you already are, or it might not be any better than what you're available to. The potential for placebo, and then it could be an inconvenience. Some people don't want to come in. Some of our studies that are phase 1s, we did an eczema study, and these poor children were covered 30% of their body or more. Most of them were like 90% covered, all but their head was covered in eczema, and they had to come in 9 days in a row and see me twice a day. So I worked for like 3 months straight, but it was okay. It was worth it because the children got better. They stopped itching. They were actually able to sleep at night. These poor kids had scratched their skin so much. So it's moments like that that I really appreciate what I get to do when I get to see the reward in front of my eyes. With my COPD patients, their lung function might not get better, but if they're simply telling me that they feel better and they notice a difference and we can help any way they can, then that's worth it too to me. And then everybody's protected patient-wise. There's an IRB, and that's the ethics board. They have to approve every study and make sure that the benefits outweigh the risk before it's conducted. So they're there on your side. There's laws, there's regulations. The FDA comes and audits us, which is always exciting. They usually come for 2 weeks. So nobody knows who you are. You're known by a number and initials, so people don't just have access to your records either. And then there's international guidelines. There's good clinical practice guidelines. And then every study has a protocol. So when those wonderful people, which I'm sure they wanted you to participate in another study, they have to go by the protocol. So if the protocol said you couldn't have this condition or that, then we have to follow that, and our hands are tied, which we don't always agree with it, but if we don't follow that, then they take us to jail. The FDA does. So we have to follow it. And then where would you fit in if you decided to participate? Researchers we need a diverse group of patients. We don't need all Hispanics, we don't need all African American, and we don't need all white. We knew in this world, and patients getting the medicine, there's a diverse group of people. We need to reach out to as many different people as we can to participate so we can see how it's going to work in several populations. Older patients sometimes have special needs that are different than others, so we need to capture that data as well. And the medications may respond differently than other people. I know when I take Benadryl, I can't sleep and I want to stay up for days straight. When my wonderful boyfriend takes it, he wants to sleep for several days. So everybody responds differently to whatever medicine they're taking. And if you have any questions, your physician hopefully is going to be becoming more aware about research and they can tell you about it, or you can look it up online too to answer questions. And how can you get involved? You can call me. Lynette has my cell phone number, my card. I am not one of those owners that's never available. I work more probably than anybody else in my company, but I love to work. So you can call me whenever. You can look things up online. You can go to support groups, newspapers, online searches. And then studies we're enrolling. I touched on some of the asthma studies. We're doing allergy studies, a lot of eczema studies. And the eczema studies are also using a biologic that's going to attack the eosinophils and other areas in the body to help block that allergen pathway. Because eczema is just a severe allergy that kind of takes over the body. We are doing weight management and diabetes. The diabetes studies are just show that it's safe in patients with heart conditions. The weight management studies, Belvique. I don't know. Have you guys seen that commercial where the lady walks on TV? No? So the medicine's been out for 2 years now. Patients lose weight on it, but there hasn't been a study yet to show that it's safe in patients with heart conditions, a heart attack, a stroke. So it has to go back and be retested. Even though you could go and get a prescription for it right now, it still has to be retested. Chronic constipation due to pain medicine, endometriosis, COPD, and that's pretty much it study-wise. We are doing some bipolar and schizophrenia studies at our Petersburg location too, and children, which is another whole scenario in and of itself. A lot of these medicines that are written to kids as a prescription haven't been approved in that age group to show what the correct dose is. So physicians are still to this day writing medicines off-label. So we're simply going back even with inhalers and saying, okay, this dose is correct for children to take, even though they can already take the medicine now. And that was in 2004. The FDA said that they need to make sure the correct dose is shown in a study for children, instead of them just kind of guessing what it should be. So there's lots of different types of studies, obviously, that we do. Yes, Russell?
Oh, yeah.